moment there where I thought I didn't hook up my mic. Doing better than I thought I would. Alright. Move it down a little bit though. Come on. Come on. There you go. Alright. Good evening. It's evening. Yeah, it's evening. Happy Tuesday. Hello, Preshlink. I did not stream Friday, so now I gotta remember again what we were doing. It was Twilight related, and Scoot was scared. Oh yeah, we launched a Scoot. Experiment. It never gets old. I just want to check a couple things with her quick here. Experiment. Hello, Michael. I think I'm gonna have her back leg pull in a little bit here. Because here it's actually clipping into the ground a little bit. I'm gonna go from here to here. Oops. That is F1. How do I animate so good? Practice. There's really not much else to it. It's just time. What am I at for time? Oh, almost at full sevens. No, I've got a lot of time in there, and that adds up. But I wouldn't say it's all from time just playing around in SFM. I think there's other things that I've learned over time in terms of like cinematics when I used to do Halo photography, which sounds really weird, but yes. And other types of, like I used to love photography, so I knew a lot of the basics for that. I had done model conversion from OBJ files to SMD into working in the source engine for Gmod. So when I came into this, I knew a lot of it already, or at least I knew a lot of different things, and but still, it just takes time. It's probably the most cliche, overused bit, but you don't understand it until you've actually done it. That the biggest things are patience and practice. I would want to say it's like the 3 Ps, but I don't know what else to do for P. Oof. That's not gonna work. But yeah, it's, if you really want to get good at something, and I'm not just talking with 3D animation, but anything in general, if you want to get good at it, it's practice. No football player is winning the Super Bowl without spending probably thousands of hours practicing his talent. Patience, practice, persistence. Okay, yeah, I can see that. It's just, persistence sounds so kind of negative. Like, hello, Skylight. But it's to keep doing what you're doing. They probably just use that word because it starts with a P. It just sounds, I don't know, because normally when you hear the word persistence used, it's people saying, "Wow, you're persistent." So that's why I feel it kind of sounds negative. But I mean, whether or not it has the actual negative connotation. Yeah, that feels better. Now I just have to make sure that her leg doesn't clip. So from I'm gonna probably go a little bit before it here. I'm gonna see, can I just... Oh no, I can't grab her thigh because that's gonna pull the clothing with. This is gonna be a tough one. Oh wait, no, I know how to do this. There we go. Solved. The only thing I don't like about it is I think she actually drags the leg then. And I actually want it lifted. So what we're going to do is cheat it. Because I love cheating. So you can't actually see the leg here. So I'm just going to bring it up. Okay, I do have to be a little careful. Okay, so I can kind of do that, but if I'm going to bring it forward more, I have, or up more, I have to actually bring, sadly, the right thigh up. Let's see if that works. I think it will. I think I just might slow it down a little bit, or maybe start it a little earlier. Experiment. Okay, that works. Well, is it it's like the persist. It's what is it? The two words of having conviction and being stubborn. Two things that are very similar. It's just one's kind of the negative version of it. Determined, yes. Well, no, I wouldn't even say determined is. Because persistence is the act of, well, determined could just be the thought of. I would say that there's a difference, but it in a way it's still like saying persistence is probably. I always talking about that. I would still say that persistence is probably still used just because it starts with P if they're going to try to do the starting letters. Still love that face. Whoop. But no, anyways, back to the whole reason for those. Yes, I would say those three are important. Practice, because you can't get good at anything without actually playing with it. And almost most importantly, getting to know, getting to the point of muscle memory, to where you don't have to think about what you're doing anymore, and your brain power can be the part of your brain that is active in what it is doing, that is processing and thinking and learning, is focused on the important tasks instead of just learning. But then patience, because things get boring, monotonous, and not everything is 100% fun. You have those boring times you have to get through, and you have to be patient and just work your way through it. There's plenty of times where I get bored with some of this stuff, but I just take breaks and just know that things take time. But then persistent in that, just you have to keep at it. You can't hope that it's going to come out of nowhere. Not you, just in general. It's like blowing a small thing into a big thing. But that's fine. It's important stuff. The one thing I don't like about the talks of like practice makes perfect and all that is that being told something and learning it are two completely different things. You have to have something click in your head. There was actually I'm not going to remember, but there's like a term for that where it's not just learning something, but finally realizing it and having that switch flip in your head. There's an actual name, I think, for that term, or the name for the term. Anyway, but there's a term for it, and it's so you can be told something 1,000 times and it doesn't mean anything. It's getting it to actually get through all the layers in your head and actually hit the right spot in your brain. Okay, so other than tail, Twilight's eyes. Oh, I think I did the animating for her eyes over here, right? Yeah. I probably should do that, because it's not a reactionary thing. Yeah, so the board going down was wasn't made for creative reasons. Um, yeah. What was it for? I think. Oh, it was because I didn't know what to do with Rainbow after she hit the board, because her back legs are up. So technically, she is slammed into this thing. If I wanted to have the back legs drop or the tail drop, it didn't look right no matter how I really did it with how she was animated without redoing it completely. So I decided to instead knock the board down because then I didn't have to deal with that. So I did more work to not have to redo work. Plus, I just thought, I'm like, well, I could technically add something funny going on back here, but I'm thinking that that would be a distraction from Twilight and her amazing hair day. One of my favorite things with my job, or just in general, is I love troubleshooting. I love finding a problem that is there and trying to find a creative way around it, and thinking outside the box a little bit. And I find so much entertainment in that. So when I see a problem of, okay, I can't animate Rainbow in this position, how do I get around that issue? It's not always about how you fix the issue. It's what can you do to just to change it, or I love that part. It's so, I don't know why it's fun. Um, Actually, I do some troubleshoot. I don't really do family troubleshooting, just because um, it's kind of frustrating, and they normally are. My dad worked for IBM for a while. I mean, it was well before the current computers and whatever. That was back when, like, 400 megabyte hard drive was a big thing. Um, but so he's not bad with them, so they can usually figure it out themselves. And a lot of that is solving a problem. I like the creative solutions bit of like in the video. That's actually probably my favorite thing with, like, the video making, is when it's like, I need to do this, but the engine doesn't let me do that. You don't look at it as, well, then I have to do something else. I instead go, well, how can I make it do it in a different way, or how can I find a way to get this the same or close to the same result with a different method. And I love doing that. That's so fun. And that's one of the reasons at work, or at my job, because I work in at a medical device company in the quality department, and that's one of the things, quality systems, and that I like is you have this very general standard you have to follow, but your company can do, as long as they follow that standard, they can go about it in any way they want. And so finding the ways to be creative and making things work, and it's, I don't know, I think it's actually fun. I turned down a different position at my job just because it would be leaving that department, even though it was a higher paying job, just because it would be going to something that was more boring to me, and I didn't want to lose that. So Oh, I am gonna have to. I almost forgot about this. She needs magic. She's doing magic here, so I'm just gonna steal this one. Oops. Thank you. Yeah, it was a pretty nice birthday. It was super low key. Had a friend over. Hi, Mike. I'm not one for spectacles of stuff. I usually prefer keeping things low key, and it was super nice that it was just kind of chillax, go out to lunch, and just hang with people. Nope, it was my birthday was the 23rd, so it was 2 days ago, Sunday. Question for the scene in the Dash video. Can you show how many lights you had in the scene where the pony was chasing the ball? Oh, okay. It took me a minute to realize what you're talking about. Yeah, I can do that. There's a lot, if I remember right. I think that's number 2. I don't know what it is with like this 1 week. It's like if everybody was just making babies in January or something. But it has been, the amount of birthdays that I've seen in the last this week alone is insane. I know 2 people that had my birthday, like literally right on the same day. So it just was weird how many people just in this like one tiny little period, and they're just the people doing all the baby making in January. So you're talking about, because technically there's 2, but I'm thinking you're talking about this one. If I'm right. Well, it could be a New Year's celebration, but this is going on almost 10 months. So my thought is it's after the holidays, it's after all this stuff, and people are bored and cold. Okay. Less than I thought. Let me just double check if there's any others. No. Looks like that's everything. Okay. So, I'm gonna have to break this in pieces, and I'm hoping I named these. Okay, I did. Good. So the one thing SFM is not very good at is creating good-looking. I mean, SFM can create good shadows, but shadows aren't always going to be nice, cut and dry, sharp things. They're going to be sometimes subtle shadows, and that's usually from light bouncing. SFM doesn't do light bouncing at all. So, but that's also why SFM is efficient and can render so fast. But it took away something that kind of gets that good final effect. So, if you want to create something that looks like realistic, you have to simulate that. Next beer on me. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, now it's just coffee. But I recently got a new French press. Never had one before, and makes a pretty damn good cup of coffee. So, well, thank you very much. Also, I changed it so that the whatever those things are called, the cheer things, last a month now, because for doing 2 streams a week, 1 week keeping it on there wasn't very long, so they stay on there a month now. Okay, so to do that realistic lighting, so there are extra lights put in here for that sole purpose. For instance, the shed. I was really happy with, or I didn't like how the shed was looking at first until I played around with the lights, and I made it look better. So that's what these are. So this is what the shed looks like normally. And it was me playing with the lighting to make sure that it doesn't hit the shed so I could light it myself. So a lot of it was, when I looked at it, if you think like if you look inside a dark barn or something, it has a door open. There's no light source directly putting it into it, but the interior will be lit because of all the reflecting light. So that's what the intent I was trying to go with here, was that there's the sun's from up high. I'm trying to insinuate that the sun's coming from above, and so the light will be not really hitting the sides of the shed, but the area, everything around it would be bouncing and giving it the light. The sky would be giving it the light. So while there should be a shadow along the edge down here, but it shouldn't vary very much, or it's going to be a very large gradient. So I had put in light specifically so that I could maintain this dark bottom edge, and then this one was just to kind of fill in that little gap right here. Process. So that's what the effect I was going for. SFM wouldn't have actually been able to pull that off without me actually making specific lights to make an artificial shadow. Cold brew coffee. No, yeah, if you do coffee right, yeah, there's no acidity, no bitter. So like for mine, I have a hand grinder, so I don't pre-toast using an electric grinder. I hand grind my beans, put them right in, and only use what I grind. That keeps, and then using a French press maintains a lot of the natural oils. So usually the reason that you get a lot of acidity or a lot of bitterness is because it's like pre-ground or it's been ground and sitting, and a lot of those aromas and flavors and stuff go away after like 15 to 20 minutes. So I always make sure I grind it right away, and then I drink it as soon as I can too. So I actually wanted to start going into like some of those coffee of the month bits, so they can send you new coffee every couple weeks, just so I can try some new beans. Right now my favorite is just the organic French roast from Trader Joe's, because it's actually pretty good for the cost. So anyway, so building, so I'm going to shut those off so that we can have an idea as to what everything is after we get these off. I can run, but I drip after rather than French press. The reason, going off of the coffee, that's my cutie mark, so that's fine. The reason that a French press is considered superior to a normal drip coffee maker is that for kind of two reasons. One, you're straining instead of filtering. Filtering includes the coffee being soaked up by a filter and then coming out the other end. That is effectively removing a lot of the oils. Well, a French press has a fine net, so that and you ground it to a larger quote, larger granule of coffee, so then you push it through the coffee, the beans out of the coffee, so you'll actually maintain a slightly grittier coffee because there'll be the fine particles still in there, and you're then keeping all the oils in it. The second reason is a normal coffee maker just runs hot water through the coffee and into your cup. Well, this actually steeps it, so you actually let it soak for a couple minutes in the coffee beans to get fully absorb everything. So it's going to be stronger, and I think just tastes better. So, but it is a lot more work. A standard cup of coffee, when you just hit a button and let everything come through, well, this actually takes quite a bit of prep, and you need hot water. It doesn't make hot water for you unless you have something fancy one, but I just have an electric kettle. So, but it just really depends on what you're doing, and I prefer a dark roast too. So I thought the hoof was broken there. Anyway, let's see here. So I'm just going to break down some of the lights here. So based on this, I'm thinking this is her lighting her. Yeah, this is her light so that when she's coming in, she's not that overly dark bit. Because I have lights for when she's actually landed. But I don't, if I animate the lights to follow her, it's going to be, you're going to see the lights shifting, and I don't want that. So instead, I just added a couple lights to balance in the middle so that she can stay lit for the most part. You can even see right here, there's the lights in this area are a little lower. Oh, yeah, if you want to try to get one. I think my French press was about $20, and the electric kettle was like 25 or 30. But I got a bigger kettle. You can get a smaller one. The electric kettle is nice because you can just boil water in like a minute. So, okay, so I think some of these lights then are going to be just lighting rainbow. So this is her main light, which doesn't appear to do anything. Oh, or is this her pull-in main light? I'm actually seeing it do anything, so I'm wondering. Oh, it probably is doing something. Yeah, it's just minor. This is probably not the best use of the word main then. And then here, actually, we'll go over here. Move a little closer. It's going to be low frame rate because I have so much crap going on in this scene. So I have an underlight, and this is one for her legs. Mainly because a lot of these, you're going to have these shadows coming up in the feet, which doesn't make any sense for the surface they're on. So these lights are ensuring that a lot of the lighting for her feet on the surface that she's on, this is matching pretty decent. And then head ambient, just because her head was pretty dark otherwise. So I shut off all that. Left it a darker rainbow dash on the roof. Yeah, I had lights where she's landing on the shed, though right now she's probably being lit primarily from the main lights on the map. The other lights were just to supplement to make it more realistic. Because, like I said, there's no bounce, so I had to simulate more bouncing light. Otherwise, this would be just map lighting. And she doesn't look like she belongs up there. Like, why is this surface so bright and even, but her feet aren't? Why are they so dark? So it's about getting that nice balance. Don't ever go back to and open previous animation to get a reminder of some tricks I've used before. Yes, actually, I've went back just to I go back to all the time to like grab, steal old animation stuff, even if it's just for a part. I've had to go back sometimes just because I forgot how I did something, or I wanted to do something like I did before, and I might not have done anything to do it, but it just ended up that way, and I had to figure out like how I got that. So yeah, I've had to do that kind of before. But going through this, like, I don't remember what a lot of these lights were for, so I'm kind of going through here, and this is the kind of the reason that it's important if you're doing a big scene to name your stuff. Okay, these are pretty easy. So these clouds all have, to make them look unique and different, and to make it look like the light's coming from a specific direction, these are all models in the sky there. And this also lets me move them. So they're actually, if I make the camera stationary, you can actually see they're moving a little bit. So it allows me to move them all just slightly differently, just to give it a feel for like a more fluid and more realistic environment. See you later, Celestial. So each of these clouds has a light. So I think all these are the same cloud model, and you can actually see that. So this little bit of the model, you can see it here, 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 here. I mean, it's just literally the same cloud model multiplied over and over. But unless I really told you that, it might be hard to tell. Because they're all lit differently. So each of these lights, as you can see how that one is lighting up, it's going to be difficult because volumetrics multiply as you shut things off. I'm just going to shut those off for now. We'll get back to them. So you can see that one. What is this other volumetric? Those ones are marked. White horizon. Probably these two. Okay, we'll get back to those. There we go. All off. So yeah, there's that one. That one. This is even hitting the ground a little bit. So this one, with the one light, it wasn't able to get the effect that I wanted, so I went and added another light to supplement. So if I shut all these off, this is technically what the shadow, or what they look like. And I could have made these like glow white, but then it would be perfectly balanced white across for all clouds, and that doesn't actually make any sense. So for example, let's grab this one here. So this is just a light that I have at a really shallow angle, and just hitting that area right there and trying not to go too far. So it has a cutoff and everything. So let's shut all those off and then go and do that. We'll do these volumetric lights. Okay, so the sky is done using volumetrics because what's the background trees? I'll get to those in a minute. So it's going for the haze look, and it's nice because haze allows you to hide detail, so that I didn't actually have to put a lot of detail into these hills. I just kind of kept the pre-rendered textures because I just didn't light them. I used the haze from that you'd expect from distance on a humid day to just cover up that bit for me. So each of these, like, to try to make it a nice balanced white that went over this area, and to get it at, because these are like at the absolute furthest distance I could possibly go, because the brain will assume that more haze equals further distance. So I had to make sure that I put extra volumetric lights in between some of these, because just assume that they're further away even though they actually aren't, so that this one feels further away even though they're technically really, really close. The white haze is normally going to be lower and get, especially for the further ones, because at the very, very top I want it to be a little bit darker. I don't know why it is that way, but it always looks better that way. And then in the actual sky, I want kind of a white haze line in that distance, at the very bottom of everything, because you're looking through more of the atmosphere or something. So these ones I'm not going to be able to show individually, but if I shut off all the center ones, so these are all the ones that are just built for giving that depth. I think this right one is probably just the same thing over here. Yeah. I just got really lazy when it came to naming on those. The hills back, these are just giving that extra blue haze for some of this distance. So if I shut off one of them, you can see that removed that one. And then it just... So that haze is what gave a lot of that depth to everything and that day feel. Without it, everything kind of dies, truthfully. So what else we got here? Building main. These are just an extra light to put on the buildings to help give that to make them balance in their lighting. Okay, underlight is really subtle, but all these models, just to keep that bounce light going, it gives the lighting underneath. You can kind of see it on these two models when I turn it on and off. It's not much, but it is there. These are just lighting some more of the back, just to make sure it's balanced. And a lot of these are just filling out ambience. So this grass is efficient in terms of its use because it is just flat textures. But the problem with flat textures like this, especially ones that go at all different angles, is that if I shine light at one angle, like say from the bottom right across, I'm going to be hitting, so if it's coming from this bottom right, I'm going to be hitting this one straight on with the light. But then ones that are like this, it's going to be at a shallower angle, and it's not going to light it the same, so they're going to be dark. So it's kind of difficult to light this. So that's why with these ambient lights, if I turn off one of these, you can start seeing these dark splotches in the grass here. Because of that inefficiency. That. So I have another light from a different angle that just tries to make up for that. And then and also just try to fill in the shadows for everybody else. So If I turn off all that ambient light, then you start getting these really, really sharp shadows, because I have one direction that's saying this is where the sun's coming from, and then I have all these other lights that are kind of filling in the gaps, so that you can see the main direct light is coming from one direction, but everything else is just kind of filling it in. Okay, this is just to fill in kind of that back grass area, and then these are just the various lights to kind of give everything there. So that you don't have like this sharp shadow look. To kind of fill it in, so everything looks like it's got a smoother light to it. Sky card light. Okay, so I have a single light that's being just shined at the sky card, and the reason I use a light shined at things is because I can light it more. I have more control over it. So while the way I'm shining it at it is ensuring that it's just hitting the skylight. I am aiming it towards the center, so it'll usually give a darker edge. And it'll leave the upper sky a little darker. So it helps give that effect that it's a little bit brighter down here. In this case, in this one, I didn't really use it too much, but for a lot of stuff I've done, I would actually use the lights like this to simulate kind of that haze in the background. But because I was doing the haze with the mountains, doing the haze in both ways like that just made a big white streak, and I didn't want that. So grass light. So this is actually kind of filling in a lot of other stuff. But it's kind of filling in the grass and everybody. And actually, I think that's the main grass light, because I think... yeah. There is a special one I have here I have to find. I think this is when I got lazy towards the end. I stopped naming things. Anyways, I'll shut that off, because I'll show how the patchy thing works. So these are... so I'll make sure I'm... yeah. So this is a normal light. So there's just going to be a whole bunch of lights that are just in the background, just trying to light everything. And I had a whole bunch. All I really did was just start putting them down to make it work. So that actually covers the actual lights. What is left here is patchy lights. So I didn't want it to just look like everything was evenly lit. I had clouds in the sky, so I wanted to kind of give it a feel that there was patches of light moving through the area. So if you actually look at this, I actually have these moving, and I tried to position them in such a way that when they were moving, that you could see it. That there was, I picked a position so that there was a dark patch that you could see moving across the ground. So I have a couple of these overlapped on top of each other. So there's two there, and then the distance I have one there, one there, one there, one there, and then I think that's just a standard light. Yeah. So I can't remember the actual texture I used for this, but it was one that comes with SFM, I think. And so it was maybe, but even if not, you can find one like that. So it's just a splotchy texture that is then blurry, because you don't want to have a nice sharp edges. So it's blurry, and then it is a gobo light. I'm not going to open it up because it'll crash me, but you just set it as a texture. So I attached the texture of this like weird bubbly thing there. So then as this is going, you actually get this feeling that the world is a lot more alive. So it's about careful placement of ensuring that, and this was my dark spot that I was going with, so that you can see that moving across the ground, and so everything feels like it is changing and moving and alive. And that was a really easy addition. So definitely worth putting it in. Now if I remove all of that stuff, then I'm left with just the trees. The trees are set right now to self-illuminate, so they're just ignoring all the light and they're just lighting themselves. It made it easier. From this distance, they'd all be evenly lit anyway. As for what model that is, I believe I actually did that by particle. Yeah. So that, and that's also why they were lit like that. So the model that was used was Tree Birch 1, GM Forest, whichever that's from. I normally don't use particles for things like this because there's a lot of issues, but it saved me a lot of time. So a lot of these trees are not actually on the ground. They're just kind of floating there. That's why there is multiple spams of the trees. Because I just tried to find an angle that was close to what the ground was, and then I just was like, okay. Well, thank you, Control X. It was a pretty good birthday. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So yeah, if I choose to turn off those, the only trees that are left then are these couple. These just had to be put manually because I needed more detailed trees than whatever the hell those ones were. The grass model is from a foliage pack that doesn't exist anymore. Random rocks to keep it from being just a monotonous grass pit. The net here was... I can't remember what the actual net was. It was just net. I must have done it on Workshop, and then I just molded it to be an actual net for that. And these guys are retextures. The ground is actually molded to be what I need it to be. The ground actually has bones in it, and so I just grabbed bits of it and made it uneven so that the surface was all over the place. And apparently the grass just goes up there. Sure. These buildings are just wood things. I didn't care. I just wanted the buildings. So, in essence, that's the whole how I lit it, I guess. Pull the lights back on. I could have probably done this exact same look with less lights. The reason there's so many, though, is because you start with something general, and then as you go, you add more to fix and correct. So there's probably some here that are caught. I could have done with one light, but whatever. With Love Shack. And that's how the end of it turned out. Or the final product. So, yeah. If I turn off these ones down here, so these are the splotch lights. This is how it would look. So the grass is fairly uniform in its lighting, and I just didn't like that. It didn't seem natural to me. By adding these couple lights, then. You can see these, there's bright spots that popped up. And you can actually see the dark grass area here. And it actually feels a lot more alive in terms of this lighting, so. It looks a lot better in the render, though. Let me open that up. It's hard to tell in the final. Ah. So you can actually see the the changing hues in the grass here, like right here. And with the clouds moving, it actually makes it feel much more realistic in that. How does my SFM handle this? Barely. I mean, I'm running at 3 frames a second when I'm in preview. When I was actually working on it, I start with the stuff that I know is going to be difficult to do otherwise. So, but otherwise, like when you go to do the animating, a lot of the stuff that was eating up my processing was the lighting. So I can go and move fairly good if I'm only running at like 16 or 17 now. SFM is a single graphics card program, so having a singular powerful graphics card is good. My previous one, I was using two 970s, which was good, but it only used one of them for SFM, so it wasn't getting the most out of what my computer could do. So I upgraded to a 1080 Ti, so now I got a lot more power for single graphics card. What do you mean by not corrupt? Yeah, 940 should be fine. Yeah, I don't know what you mean by corrupt. Do you mean just like crash? Because I have my fair share of crashes. I just know what not to do. Hell, you don't really talk about. Oh yeah, I never have anything crash to the point of being corrupted. I haven't had that happen for years. That sounds more like it's going to be the hardware that's being used or something. But I wouldn't be able to help there. Like for her main here. Oh, I guess it's not lights. That is light rays. All right. To get the effect that I needed here, the hair that's being used is Rainbow Dash's main. If we look around here, there they are. There's little EKG girls that I'll use the main from, and then I just stretch the hair to match up to that on her head. From back here, it does not look near as good because I didn't care. There's like one just to make it look like the tail's coming around, and another one actually giving the hair look. So while they look connected here, they're not. It's just for the look. And then I also just went and folded another one over the top of her to give her a really, really poor comb over. But I did that because anything I did with Celestia's main still looks like Celestia, so this was my way of separating the two. Coffee gone. And when speaking of like, so like reasons I do things, there's little sparkles coming up as she's going. For one, to give the feeling of magic or like fantasy, but also because the camera is not just doing a left and right shift, it's actually doing a churn in 3D space. And adding little sparkles like that, you can really start seeing that feel and that 3D of depth when you have things that are filling that 3D space. So by doing that, having those sparkles and with the camera moving like it does, the whole scene feels so much more fluid. So its main purpose was because of the feeling that it gave upon the camera turning. And having a single person, this doesn't make sense to me with the wind, but again, magic for that part. But having a pony's hair blow in the wind doesn't feel as good unless something else is also blowing with it. So if you're gonna make a windy shot with her mane going like this, I added the flags also coming and blowing in the wind so that it gave that full feeling of it. These aren't blowing in the wind. I try to find a way to do it, but they're not built to. But it was just to give that much bigger feeling for it. Just thinking of bigger scenes, like even hell in here, like this whole cloud thing is alive. I'm not gonna go forever with some of the extra time put into stuff. This is my favorite scene in terms of playing with perspective. So in this shot, the only thing not moving is the pony. Everything else in the shot is moving. The pony, if I stop the camera, is the only one not moving. She's standing still. And it ended up just kind of being that happened, but this was to create a false sense of distance. So what I ended up doing was you watch anime and you're like, okay, well, how does a 2D software represent three-dimensional space? And so they would do layers and they would have them shift amongst themselves. Well, I might not be in 2D, but I can still use that same principle to portray further distance than it actually is. So as this camera is going around, you can see the different layers actually shifting and moving at a different speed. So the further something is away, the faster I'm having it go around the camera, and that makes it feel like it's further away. So if I actually grab this structure, no, I'm on the wrong one. Building. Okay, this is gonna be tough to play at. Come on. Okay. So this is without the buildings moving. It doesn't feel as distant. It feels like they're as far away as they actually are. But if I go and give them that animation and they start moving separate, they feel further away. This one, I wanted it to feel closer to the camera than it actually is, so I have it move the opposite direction from the others. But in the end, when I ended up moving everything to get the effect that I wanted, the only one that really didn't move was the pony, which was kind of creepy. But it works. Parallax, yes, I think that's the word for it. That does sound right. And I do a little bit of it here too. And because this was copied from an anime, when you actually watch the anime in this scene, they have the buildings moving separate, and that's where I was kind of like, can I do that in 3D? So when I built the buildings, I did front group, close group, middle group, back group. And so this is broken up where this is front group. So just this couple right here. And then I broke these into 3 groups when I built it to be close group, middle group, and back group. Because I'm not going to be able to figure out how to do it, animate it to be all moving individually the correct speed. You're going to have one move too fast or one move too slow, and it'd be feeling weird. Like, why is that building moving through space separate? So I did it like this, so that I had more control over that ability. In the final, it ended up making it look like I had 3 separate layers of texture just moving, but technically they are actually all models. And a lot of repeat models, like that one, and that one, and that one, and that one. Oh, there it is again. Oh, there's actually 2 of them. So, do I use IK rigs? If you do, how do I make the legs not mess up with the ponies? Do I use IK rigs? No, I do not like the IK rigs. How do you make them not mess up? Carefully. That is really about the only thing I can say. The reason that I don't like the ponies is that, as far as I can remember, they didn't have knee bones. which if you ever load like the TF2 models, when you have the rig, you can grab their hand and you can move it. But you still have the elbow bone that you can then shift and move it as you needed. But the ponies didn't really have that, or at least it didn't really work the way that you wanted to. So you were kind of at the mercy for a lot of stuff. And it ended up being that the benefits of it outweighed the downfalls by having it where you're fighting with yourself so much. And I didn't like that. I have played with the I don't think I have it open anymore. No. I have played with the IK script to try to improve it, but it was learning it to begin with, and I spent hours just poring over that thing, and I learned a lot about it, but it wasn't enough to actually be able to improve it, so I just gave up. I love this. These two skyboxes, like, that was the best I could do to try to match up with what I needed. So I'd let them overlap, because when you had motion blur kick in at this exact spot, you really couldn't even tell that was there. This is like 3 or 4 Goku hairs on him. I think 3. And the reason I chose that hair was because I needed him having hair blowing in the wind in a different shot, so that was the compromise. This shot is built to look fish-eyed. The camera itself is let's see here. The camera itself is somewhere between 24 and 35. It was Birch Tree 1, I think was the name of it. For it was just literally, it doesn't matter. Just grab a tree and spam it. If it's going to be in the far background, it doesn't really matter what the tree is. Yeah, it's just that if you can use particles, there's some difficulties with it. If you're using a map that is a pre-made ground, you can attach the property of place on ground, which will then technically drop the trees a certain distance until they hit a map surface. I've used that before. That actually will help if you want to keep them on the ground, but then you're going to have problems in lighting them with any actual light in your map is near impossible. You're better off just keeping them all lit like I did. You aren't going to have as much control over placement. Like, you can have them in a circle or in a square, but it's like if you're trying to get them in a little nook and cranny, you're going to have to make a whole bunch of particles. Yeah, there's a lot of trees. I can't remember, like, there's a lot of trees. I can't remember how many there was here. I didn't want to place all those, so I said screw it. I got lazy. Here, actually, I did some parallax things with the mountains in the distance here. As the camera comes up next to her, though, because of the shifting and the change of the motion, I had to actually offset that a little bit, so that's why it slows down. But the particles for the trees, even when I tried to make them move, didn't. So the trees themselves are not actually moving, just the mountains. I didn't realize that until after I rendered it. And oh no, I think they do move, but my preview doesn't show it. It's only when I go backwards. But it was even in the render, it just didn't pop up the way I wanted it to. think I've shown about as much as I can for like this shots. I can open up some of the other ones if you want. I can still kind of go over the details of those. If, I don't mind. Otherwise, I can go back to working on stuff. Whole point of the stream is to help people out. So if this helps people out, then I have no problem going through it. I was speaking of like Windy. Here, just to create a little bit of an effect, I had to put something that was moving in the wind. I think there's two. Thought I had another one. I went over this shot like 100 times. You do need a fresh press. Oh, there's another one there. There. Actually, that one's moving really... Well, I guess it isn't more in the open while this is covered, so that kind of makes sense. And technically, if you wanted to read in terms of the story, having her out where she is right now is absolutely stupid, because technically she is now completely exposed in a dragon-infested area. Well, normally they would not go above the surface. So... but creative license. Coffee's done, so now the ons come. I will jump back to that then. Yeah, let me see if I can, if you're looking to get one, I can show you what I got. So for French press, I ended up getting this one because it was normally 24, but it mainly is that with my order it was free shipping, and it was with the coupon you save $5 coupon of a check box, but still, so it was like 19 bucks and free shipping. So, but it works pretty good. Haven't had any issues with it. The plunger works great. It's pretty good quality. So it's just a little, well, it makes about 1.5 cups to 2 cups of coffee, like the standard cup size. So, but the electric kettle I got is much bigger than, it can hold like 4 times more water than that thing can. So that I kind of went a little overboard in size, but that's fine because it says other uses. Okay, so yeah, we're trying to do the magic base here. So we need to jam this in Twilight's head. Okay. So that's the horn. Okay. I'm just going to copy this particle too. I have to be a little careful with that. So, in this particle, it's going to have its control model, but I don't want that. I want to make sure I'm getting my control model. So this particle is built to attach itself to a model. Position a model random, which normally will just look like that pink dot unless it's actually attached or given a control model. So I want to make this the control model. So I'm going to go to my element viewer in this model. Nothing in here is what I want. I'm going to back one and its children here. This is the actual DME game. I'll copy. We'll go to the particle system and paste this reference where its control model is. That now it says, if anything needs to attach to a model, what model? Well, this one. By pasting as a reference, it's not copy pasting the model information. It's actually copying a pointer that points to the model that I am actually using. But if I actually go and look at this now, the particle is probably like, oh, for one, I gotta tell it when to glow. I'll say 19 for now. So if I say 19, it's probably going to start glowing somewhere else. Well, whatever. It's, you're not going to see it. And that is because it does not like being locked. It's essentially another Screw My House. The download for the particle is actually my DeviantArt. It's older now, but under resources, I have another tutorial I was working on too. I just haven't gotten around to it. Been distracted. Where's Squeaky Float? There it is. Levitation particle. So when did I put this up? Yeah, I put this up 5 years ago. Oh, just before Christmas. So there is an explanation on how to actually use a particle here. Full explanation. I don't give people a tool that doesn't have an explanation for something like this anyway. So this will show you how to change the color, how to instance it, and how to actually use it. But otherwise, the reason that I'm attaching it to a piece of wood is because I have to attach it to a full model. Her horn is a part of her model. So if I were to use Twilight's model, it would attach it to her whole body, but I wanted to go just to her horn. The reason that this isn't working though is because it's locked. To actually make it work, I have to unlock, and then it'll actually work. So if you have the magic for the horn you need to do, it's probably better to finalize that last, because you're going to have to unlock it from her head. So right now, I do want to see when this goes. Oh, and then you just hide it. So bam. But I'm going to unlock it. So it's 19 is not early enough. So 18.5. Okay. That does kind of work. I can relock it to her head later, so I'm just going to leave it. This is, and if you forget to do it, just relock it later. It's not a worry. It's just a little bit more work. So I'm going to copy this or paste. So this is the light that I want to actually shine on her head. This is also going to be locked to her head. Okay, so for this angle, I'm probably actually going to need to go brighter. The particle is also kind of hard to see. I think for the previous angle it was the other way around. So I'm going to go into the aura here. I'm just going to bump up the count. Emit continuously, sure. Mission rate 500. Alpha random, there we go. So we'll just bump up its visibility. Okay, that should work for her horn. I'll have to see how it renders though, because sometimes those particles don't move the same as I wanted. Alright, thanks for coming, Starlight. But it's not just her horn that I need to have magic encased. I need to do more than that. So I'm going to say magic base horn. Okay, I'm going to copy them, paste, I'm going to rename these. So this is going to be lever. And this is completely off topic, but it's just a super nice thing for text you can get a habit of. Shift left right does like single letter selection. Shift control actually does by word, and it is my favorite thing as of the last couple months. So get in a habit of doing that, and it's so much nicer, just like long lines of text and everything. So anyway, why do it look a bit different? Am I balding more? I'm working on it. I don't know. Have a shave for a little bit. Lighting. Okay, so one of the important things to do here is I need to make sure that some of the stuff that I copy pasted doesn't connect with the other one. It's a rare chance that that happens, but I always want to make sure I prevent it. So one being that sometimes, and I think this mainly happens if you copy one shot to another, but the particles maintain a link between them. So if you change one, it changes the other. It got shorter, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Make up for that. Brr. Okay. There, I'm taller now. That's how it works. So I want to make sure I re-instance this, but you can't re-instance because blah. So, but if you go to show in an element viewer particle system and right-click the actual particle, you can actually instance it again. This helps break it so that the two particles, when you're doing copy-pasting, don't become linked like that. Because it's really annoying when you like copy-paste a particle and you start modifying one of them to be specific to something, and the other one starts getting modified and you didn't mean it to. So, so yeah, try to do that. The other thing I want to make sure of is that that this particle is attaching to the correct model. So I'm going to go into this one again, do the same steps. So I'm going to go back, copy, delete this one as a base, and attach this one as a base. Okay, the lever itself, or this one actually will be the same. Actually, it might be the right size. Look at that. Though, kind of. I don't want it to be the full lever. That should be good enough. Now I gotta attach it to the lever. This one I can unlock because this one isn't going to be changing. I'm trying to aim these lights to be on the side that is visible. Yep, you can just hide them. This one I'm probably going to need a secondary light though. Actually, this one I can probably get away with doing a lot of it with a single light. No, not really. Oh, but see, this one, her horn looks fine, but now the magic that is going on in this lever is way too strong. I don't want it being that strong, so I'm going to go into this particle. We're going to go back to our alpha random here. This is where if I were to change these back down to the normal values I had before, that it could affect the other one. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's because the jiggle bones don't exactly like going backwards and forwards in time. That will be cleaned up in final. The way they should be acting is something like this. It's just when you go to start at the beginning, the way I think jiggle bones work, and the reason they do that is because if I'm at this point and then I jump to this point, it's trying to figure out the differences and the distance between there and the sudden change in velocity and all that other information between the two, because it keeps all that, so it just gets all wonky. Okay, so she lights up the switch. I do need the sound of magic. Okay, yeah. If you scale the model, the reason that the scaling breaks jiggles that I can tell is because when you scale a model, or a model normally when you look at it, the jiggles, like for like a Twilight here, there's no jiggle bones visible. So if I scale Twilight, it doesn't have anything to actually scale. So the jiggle bones don't get scaled. They maintain what is considered to be, I guess, their normal size. The only way to fix that, if you want to ensure it doesn't happen, is animate it at a normal size, and then bake the everything and then shrink it down, or do everything you need to do with the model, then like make a copy paste of it, put it back to normal size, let the jiggle bones figure out what they need to do for motion, then bake them at the normal size, shrink that down again and copy it. Because it has to be, the jiggle bones have to be visible to the engine when scaling, otherwise it doesn't know what to do with them. Is one of the reasons that when I was doing the Fall in the Stable video for Little Pip, I needed Little Pip to be smaller than the other ponies, but then I ran into the same issue. It's like if I scale her down to a smaller size, the hair starts getting all goofy. So my compromise was I could do it about a 10% size difference while the hair would still be bigger than normal. It ended up that it would the jiggles would still behave. So I scaled her down 10% and I increased everybody up by 10%. Therefore, the difference in size was approximately 20%. But I didn't have to deal with the jiggle bone issue because both the models were changed by 10%, not 20%, or not one by 20%. So that was my compromise. But yeah, if you are going to be resizing a model by a large enough margin to be annoying, just baking them does prevent the issue. It's just trying to make it so that baking still translates into the final product you're looking for. Bicycles. Alright, so I have to get the extra detail. I don't think she's even visible here. Trying to figure out audio timing, considering moving her. much. Okay, that looks a little better. Okay, that looks a little better. Do I still have the chicken rice? Okay. It is a chicken sound, yeah. Okay. Back to try to get her eyes figured out. Makes your mouth look weird for if I like focus on that, but the thing is it won't actually be that way. Oh, actually. Might help a little bit. She's chicken. Twilight has... Yes, it is. No, I don't think that's gonna work. She looks too maniacal then. Glasses aren't animated, so I can't do them separately either. I wish I could. Oh wait. They're bound in a bad spot. So actually make them move right. I'm really considering just leaving her like stiff motion. I'm considering like I thought about having like Sweetie Belle and Apple Bloom just pop up down here waving. Like have a... Something wrong with the Sweetie Belle. Just so it's not so creepy. Only curious thing is, where can I put them so that, because if I want to make them actually visible or like realistic, I would have to put them like right here. But then they'd be less blurry. I can definitely reduce the blur. No, I can't put them in the tree because they'd be pushing on the branches, which I can't animate. It's part of the map. Also, then they would be too much of a distraction immediately after the shot. Well, having the wave is something that's subtle and can be picked up at any point. It's you gotta balance the amount of funny things you put in. If you put in too many too fast, people don't know what's going on. There we go. Just like this. Well, yeah, they're too blurry. I would have to drop the aperture like another good bit. But then I'm worried about like having to go from this to that. I'm doing stupid stuff. That's what we're doing. So stupid. I'll leave them in there for now just because why the fuck not, but I don't know if I'll add more detail to them or not. Sometimes it's fun just to go super cheap. I think Twilight, other than just her detail stuff, yeah, I think that one's done then. So, well, for those that are actually new and don't know what I'm working on, ignore this too.
Here's some facts about flying. 1. You need wings to fly. 2. Awesome. Experiment! You ever see that basketball movie with the song about flying? This is just like that.
I don't know.
Just like that.
No, I'm not going to add a creepy face at the end. Actually, hold on a sec.
With a song about flying, this is just like that. You ever see that basketball movie with a song about flying? This is just like that. It's just like that.
I was thinking about doing 3 little zoom-ins with the That's the second thing that sucks is now that I have some kind of a music bit and I timed it in any way, I kind of stuck with my choices here. I might shake it or something. I kind of like the fact that it's just so freaking cheap. Like they just pop up out of nowhere. Yeah, I might keep them in. This is what they're actually going to look like, but the point of them being there isn't to be visible, it's just to be goofy. But even then, I think they still might be a little too... I think they're fine with the amount of blur here, but not here. It's slightly more. And I do have... Actually, it should be... Oh, that's why it's less. Actually, I had this wrong. I should... It actually should be less over time. That's why they were less blurry, because the camera is technically pulling away further as time goes on. Okay, that's better. The only thing I don't like about their arm movement right now is it stops.
You ever see that basketball movie with the song about flying? This... You ever see that basketball movie with the song about flying? This is just like that.
Okay, back to this one. Full nose wrinkle. I'm going to blend these motions together a little bit. These ears bent backwards better. Hello, Coin Clink. I'm doing well. How are you? Oh, haha. Okay, it doesn't work when sad is the main emotion here. We got a little bit of extra detail here so that she has like feeling of like a twitch. I'm just gonna make it a little more subtle and I think it'll be fine. Doesn't look maniacal enough here. Let's select for this. Just those. See if I can get her in here. Ah, these weren't locked before. Okay, I think that actually works. Don't know if I can copy this to this though. Good. Sweet. Okay. Well, then I'll just do that instead. Now I can be more maniacal, so. What's she doing for this face? Um, Silence. Oh, I can't grab it like that. Okay, I just do the flex. Yes. Science. Science. Oh. That is ultra sad. Sorry, Twilight. There you go. I'll fix. It's extra happy. She loses some of the cheek bits if I do that, though. Alright, good night. I was thinking about having her do something off camera, like here. I was thinking about merging these two. So instead having it be nope. There. I had to definitely play with the camera a bit, but this is going to be a hard one to try to make look right. I can't do a shot between them without showing stuff, so let's keep it with that. Welcome back. I think the most difficult part with doing it this way right now is 4K rendering changes focal distances, so trying to figure out what the actual distances should be. Maybe I will just keep the camera. Well, first I'm going to get rid of what I had. Let's go with this instead. Okay, the reason I wanted to delay it is because then I can actually take Scoots and I'll oh no, that does make sense, okay. Because then again, Scoots could possibly a I know it's supposed to be creepy. It's I could give Scoots a time to potentially look at her surroundings. Alright, that's a comment, Blue Wolf. I will be streaming Friday, so. Okay, so I want to put her a little bit back in her original position. So just a little. Well, actually, I should probably do everything. Everything but her face. So that she's a little bit forward. Oh, not that far forward. A little bit. Welcome back, Coin Clink. So I'm gonna put her head down a little bit. And so for this, I'll just do both when I'm doing this. I'm going to have her push or turn a little bit to one side. I'm going to lock the thighs for that part. Oh, her shoulders are still locked. So, so I'm going to turn her a little bit this way. I'm going to compensate with the shoulders. Not too much. Since she went... Okay, so this one... Maybe a little bit more bent. It's very minor, but... that looks fine. This one's going to stretch a little bit. Okay, and now her neck and her head. On there. Face. Very quickly taking a look around. I'm not going to have her turn as much this direction. If anything, I'll just have her body return to a more stable position from here. Remove head, face, and neck. Too far forward still. Okay. Probably turn them a little bit more. Twilight. I keep grabbing her by accident. Just random crap. I'm just shooting a Scudlu and stuff. I guess. It's been very much on a whim that this has been done. But full. It's just a bunch of stupid.
Here are some facts about flying. 1. You need wings to fly. 2. Awesome. Experiment. You ever see that basketball movie with the song about flying? This is just like that.
It's just meant to be really stupid. It's just gotten more and more stupid as we went. There we go. Oh. Missed that timing up. There we go. Kind of wish it was a straight back pull, but
Experiment. Experiment. Experiment.
I do like them. They're just so stupid. Keep thinking her head's moving, but it's her hair. The wavwa. Oh, hearing the same audio over and over again. Yeah, I don't even hear it anymore. It's just it all blends in the background. It's just I don't even hear the repeated audio anymore. I've heard this song forever. I might just do this the lazy route. feel like I need to brush something off of right there. What is that? Oh. It's a bit of clipping. I thought she had like got a pimple or something. A little waving. Definitely have to get some detail added to her here. I think I might just keep her this all flat over there. But like I do have to. Scootaloo is not included in the motion here. I still have to get Twilight to actually move correctly with this. So her hoof goes down there, but then as this goes up, she does not. Let's just do that right now. If you're just getting started, the tutorials I would actually recommend first watching, though it may not make much sense. Just if you just look up Source Filmmaker, and you'll get the actual Source Filmmaker channel. Nope, actually, sorry, at the beginning here too. They have these numbered ones, 000, called 00 and moving forward. They cover the very basics of SFM. But a lot of the stuff they're going to be showing you has to do with TF2 or TF2 specific. So it's going to be showing you like how the record button works and some of these things. And while it seems like it's useless, it is useful. Half of learning how to animate is how to learn the software. And if you don't know what half the buttons do, you're just going to be left only knowing half of what's out there. So okay, so if you've watched all those, that's the main thing I'd recommend at least starting with. The main one being the 13.1 through 13.3. This covers pose-to-pose animation. That is very important, and it will save you a lot of time if you know how to do a lot of that stuff. Other than that, that kind of at least shows you the basics of the software. So it's going to be just playing around in the software. The tutorials that I have are more specific to like how do you use this tool or what does everything do with it. And if you want to watch stream, that's great, but they're going to be more specific to things that or situations you might arise to that you need something specific. What I'd actually recommend first doing is, for the first couple things, just make some pictures, because animating is just a series of pictures. Especially if you see how pose to pose works, you're basically building poses, and that's what a picture is just multiple poses. So learn to do like a couple of pictures for like playing with the model, getting used to it, but try to replicate something. Like take 10 seconds of the show that don't look like they have too much motion. I would recommend nobody watching, or not watching, sorry to spread that. Nobody walking. No, so just standing ponies, and just try to replicate it. Like frame by frame, try to recreate it, because if you just try to animate without something you're trying to base it on, you're going to end up doing just like basic head motion and very, very basic everything. You're not, because you don't know, like, okay, so I need to I want to make it so that they move this way, but you don't know maybe how they're supposed to look or whatever, and you end up having too much you're trying to do at once. The simplest way to do it is, if you're trying to copy something from the show, you have exactly what you're trying to do, and now you're just trying to replicate it in SFM. I learned an immense amount with I can't remember where the video is anymore, but like the first one I ever did was a replication of the show, and I learned a buttload from it. The absolute first thing I did with ponies was, I think, this. That's the very first thing I ever did with ponies. And the reason I did this one is because I could just do very, very basic motion. These are even the old models, so there was no hair bones. And it kept it simple. But if you're looking to do full-on animating, I would definitely pick something to replicate. It's not there's nothing wrong with doing it, as long as you're not claiming that like you did all the work for it or whatever. So I've been to some panels before where people are like, don't replicate. I'm like, but that's the greatest way to learn, so do it. So but yeah, but also just be patient. It's gonna take a while. It took me about 1.5 years before of pretty consistently using the software before I felt comfortable to start making my own things to the quality that I wanted to make them. And that's not even near what I can do now. I started catching up a little bit on season 8, but I'm still way behind. So I still probably somewhere like 5 or 6 episodes or more. I have no idea. Anyways, so a lot of progress made today. Got some of the extra camera bits figured out. Got some of the final cleanup stuff figured out for this. And stuff kind of retimed, so. What's this for audio?
Just like that.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Oh, it's good there. I'm so far behind that I have no idea. I'll get them all in sometime. Season 8 is turning out to be a better season than I expected it to be, though. The school thing kind of worried me that it would be something kind of stupid, but ended up being not so far. They actually just added some nice dynamics with the new kids. So, anyway, so that is it for today. I will be back Friday, streaming some more that I know of, and go from there. Okay. I'll have bye bye. I will see you on Friday then. Have a cat. Cause meow. And yeah, I got the cat. I'll be ending the same time. I usually go from 6 to 9 my time. So same 3-hour time frame at that point. I used to run in 4 hours, but it got exhausting to do 4 hours twice a week. 3 hours is a lot more manageable for my brain. So, but if you have any questions, you can always send it to me on the YouTube video or some other Twitter or whatever, and I'll try to answer it in the stream, and it'll be recorded. So, did we just hear this one? I'm okay with it, but we're going in loops. Yeah, that's weird. Whatever. Alright, bye. Bye. Meow. Meow. Alright, bye.